Today we will going to study about the structure and function of the neuron. So let's start. So we'll cover in this the whole topics that what is the neuron and what is its structure, the classification of neuron, and we'll see the neuron structure in detail, right? So let's start. Now, if I talk about the neuron, what is in your mind that came? Let's talk about the introduction, right? Neuron is a cell, right? Neuron is also called your nerve cell. It is a cell only that we have in the body, but the specialized function is that neuron is the cell of the nervous system. If you see my video of the nervous system, if you don't have any idea, just go to my previous video of the overview of the nervous system. From there, you will get to know. So, neuron or the nerve cell is the basic unit of the nervous system. Means basic and fundamental unit of life of the nervous system. Fine. So, if we talk about the nerve cell, what is the speciality of it? We have the two things which makes it different from other cells. The first one is that it has processes, means you can say it has the processes which other cells don't have. Processes, for example, it has the axon as well as dendrites. We will see what are they, but for now just learn it that it has the process that is axons and dendrites. And the second speciality of the nerve cell, which is very important and you must remember it, it is it does not have the centrosome. That it does not have the centrosome. In other cells, if you see in the nucleus, we have the centrosome. But if we see in the nerve cell or the neuron, we don't have the centrosome. So, why I'm stressing it? Because it is very important. Centrosome plays very important role. Centrosome is responsible for your. It is responsible for what? Yes. Anyone? Very good. It is responsible for cell division. So if nerve cell or the neuron does not have the centrosome, so it will further it will not divide. Means once the nerve cell dies, it won't divide and it will be died permanently. That is why this is the only reason why we have the permanent disability if we have any neurological disease, because neurological disease is your nervous system only. It means it comprises in your nervous system only, and your nervous system comprises of your neurons or the nerve cells. Once they will die or got damaged, it won't be repaired or it won't be formed again. So this is the reason that if the person is facing the if the person is facing or got any damage in the nervous system, it won't be replaced because of this reason that it does not have the centrosome. The centrosome is responsible for your cell division, so therefore it does not have the centrosome, so it will not divide and further it will remain die only, right? So now let's talk about the another thing. Introduction is clear to everybody. So then we will move to classification of the neuron. Now we have the idea that what is neuron. Neuron is the basic fundamental unit of life of the nervous system. Now, if we talk about the classification of the neuron, based on the classification, neuron is divided into three parts. Means the classification of neuron is classified into the three parts that we have on the basis of, let's take another pen, on the basis of pole, yes, and another one is on the basis of function, and the third one is on the basis of length of axon. Okay, just clear these terms. We will study in detail that what are the axon and what is the dendrites, that we will see in the structure of the neuron. But for now, just we have seen that what is neuron. Neuron is a basic fundamental unit of the nervous system, and it is known for the two reasons, because it does not have centrosome, so it won't divide, and further it will not be repaired, right? And it has the processes, that is axons and the dendrites. Now we are talking about the classification of neurons. The neurons are classified on the three bases, means on the, wait, I'll take another pen, means on the basis of pole, on the basis of function, and on the basis of length of axon, right? If we will discuss it one by one, that how it is. See, if we talk about on the basis of first classification, on the basis of pole. So what is pole? That we will see that if we see the classification of the neuron on the basis of pole, it is further classified into three parts, that is your unipolar, another one is your bipolar, and the third and the last one is your multipolar. Fine, we'll talk it one by one, that what are they. If we talk about the unipolar, what do you understand by uni? No need to remember it, just use your brain. What is uni? Uni means single, right? And polar means pole. So the classification which is unipolar, that means the neuron which arise from the single pole, right? For example, this is a neuron, and it arises from the single pole, right? Means from the single pole it has the dendrites as well as the axon. Fine, these are the dendrites and this is the axon. Nerve ending, and this is the axon. Means you have only one pole, this one, from which the both dendrites and axon arises, right? So this is your unipolar. Mostly unipolar neurons are found in only the embryonic stage, so they are not in the uh, they are not in the newborn child or in the adults, right? So unipolar neurons are found in the embryonic stage only. Now if we talk about the bipolar neuron, that what are they? This, it is a second classification. So it is clear with the name only, from the name only it is clear. Bi means two, right? And polar means pole again. Uni means one, polar means pole. So it is arising from the single pole. And now if we talk about the bipolar, bipolar means bi means two and polar means pole. So neuron which arises from the two poles, right? Neurons which arises from the two poles is called the bipolar neuron. See, the this is the one pole and this is another pole. Means from the one pole your dendrites are arised, and from the other pole your axon is arised. Right? So these are your dendrites, this is your axon, and it is arising from the bipole. You understand that what is bipole? See, this is the one pole from which the your dendrites are arising, and this is the another pole from which your axon is arising. So it is called the bipolar neuron. Fine. So if we talk about the last classification, that is your multipolar neuron. So it is also clear from the name only. Multi means your many. Polar means again your pole. So multipolar neuron, neuron which has the multiple poles. Like see, we will see. So this is the multipolar neuron. If you see, this is a neuron, right? And from the one pole your axon arises. Wait a minute, let me draw it. So from this one pole your axon arises, and from many other poles, see this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, from many other poles your dendrites arises. So that is why it is called your multipolar, means many poles it has. The neuron which has many poles is called your multipolar neuron. Like the neurons we have, right? Um, Means from the one pole your axon arises, and from the many other poles your dendrites arises. Right? So with this our classification of the neuron is also complete. Let me take a new slide. So if we see, we have talked that classification of neuron. The neuron is classified on the basis of pole, on the basis of function, and on the basis of length of axon. And we have discussed about the basis of pole, right? So our first classification is completed, and now we will see the other two. See, now we will see on the basis of function, means on the basis of function how neuron is classified, right? This is all the classification of neuron. So if we talk on the basis of function, we have the two classifications, means it is further divided into two parts. First one is your sensory, and other one is your motor. Fine. Your sensory is also called your afferent nerve fiber, and motor is also called your efferent nerve fiber. Fine. So if we talk about the sensory or afferent nerve fiber, it is very clear that the neurons or the new part of the neurons which are taking place, or which are taking the information from your body to the central nervous system, right? Means they can sense and send the information to the brain. So they are called your sensory or afferent motor neurons. So they take the information from your body to your CNS. No, we will say to your brain, not CNS. CNS is comprising of the brain and spinal cord. Let me correct it. Right. So means the neurons which are taking participate for taking the information from your body from many receptors to the brain for processing. So they are called your sensory or afferent nerve fibers. And what are the motor or efferent nerve fibers? They, what they do? They take the information from brain or your center to your to the effectors. You know what are the effectors? Okay, let me tell you, these are your muscle or your gland. Means the information which is processed in the brain, they are carried by some nerve fibers, right? Your neurons are also only doing this work now, so these are carried by your motor or efferent nerve fibers to the, means they are taking the information from the brain and they compute it to the muscle, means they relate to the muscle or gland, right, according to which they function. So it is the second classification. It's clear. If we move on the third classification, that is on the basis of, first we have done on the basis of pole, second we have done on the basis of function, and third one is on the basis of length of axon, right? So it is a third classification. Now if we see again the neurons which are based on the length of axon, they are further classified into two parts. That is your Golgi type 1 and Golgi type 2. If I talk about the Golgi type 1 neuron, it is not that tough. It's very easy. It is Golgi type 1 neurons are which have neurons which have the long axons, right? And Golgi type 2 neuron, the neurons which have short axon. Simple. Means it is required wherever it is required. For example, long axon. For what you are required the long axon? For transmitting the message to the brain or to take the message from the brain to the body. Fine. So for that means your long axons are required because your long nerve fibers are required which relay the information fastly and in the long impulses. And if we talk about the short axon or Golgi type 2 neurons, these are mostly present within your CNS, right, for transmitting the information only to from one nuclei to the another nuclei. I'm sorry for it. So from one nuclei to the another nuclei, right? So there we require the Golgi type 2 neuron. So that is why there are the short axon is required. So these type of neurons are present there. And if we talk about the long axon, I told already to you that it is required in the transmitting the message from body to the brain and from brain to the body. Means for transmitting the message we require the long axon. So there Golgi type 1 neurons are present. With this our classification is complete. Let's revise very fastly. So if we see that neuron is classified on the basis of pole, on the basis of function, and on the basis of length of axon. If we see on the basis of pole, we have the unipolar, and second one is your, yes, speak, bipolar, very good, and third one is your multipolar, right? And I'll not say this. For example, that unipolar is arise from the one pole, both the processes or dendrites and axon, and bipolar we have the two poles from which one pole your dendrites arises and from other pole your axon arises. And if you talk about the multipolar, from one pole your axon arises and from the remaining poles your dendrites arise, right? And if you talk about the on the basis of function, it is further divided into sensory and motor. Sensory, which take the information from your body to the brain, so these are sensory fibers. And the neurons which are taking information from your brain to the body, that is your motor fibers, means they have to do the work. So means they have to perform the movement, so these are motor. And if they have to sense and take the information to the brain, that are sensory neurons. And third one and the last one is on the basis of length of axon. If we talk about this, we have the again two classification, that Golgi type 1 and Golgi type 2. Simple, means they have the long axon and they have the short axon. I told you already that what is a function of the long axon and what is a function of the short axon, means wherever they are required, right? Now let's proceed to the next topic, that is the structure of neuron. I think everybody knows it, but we will revise it. Structure of neuron or your nerve cell. So, if we talk about your nerve cell, fine, it is the again I am telling you that it is a basic unit and fundamental unit of your nervous system. It is very important, and let me draw it very fast so that I can explain you the parts of it. It's very easy to draw. You can see that how I am drawing, and it is very important. According to the exam point of view also it is very important, and you must know it by heart because it is the basic unit of the nervous system. Means without it you don't know your nervous system. See, now if you see the structure of the nervous system, sorry, structure of the neuron, right? Just a second, just give me 1 minute more. Let me draw the myelin sheath also. See, now if you see here, that you can see that it is a structure of the neuron, fine. So structure of the neuron is divided into two parts, means from here to here it is the cell body of the neuron, and this one is the remaining part, you can say axon, fine. So if we talk about the structure of the neuron, we have the cell body in which it includes the nucleus and the dendrites, and the remaining part is called your axon. Let's discuss very fast that these are your dendrites. Let me label it, then I'll explain to you. This is your nasal body. This orange one is your nucleoplasm. Sorry. Or you can also say it is a cytoplasm. Fine. And this one centrally situated is your nucleus. And the blue one in which is present in the nucleus is your center. Sorry, it is your nucleolus. This one is the part which is going towards the axon is your axon hillock. This the long rod shaped like structure is called your axon. This one is your myelin sheath. And this one is your synaptic knob. And this one is your axonal terminals or nerve endings. Right? So you can see here that like every cell, the neuron has the nucleus, and it also has the cytoplasm. We will see that what are the structures which it contains, right? But here you can see it has the cell body and the axon. And if we see in the cell body, we have the nucleus which is situated centrally, and in which we have the nucleoli, but we don't have the centrosome which is otherwise present in the every cell, which is responsible for your division, right? Cell division. That is why neuron once damaged, it won't be repaired, right? So if we talk about the, let me take the new slide. So if we talk about the structure of the neuron, right, we have the nucleus and the cell body. For example, first let's talk about the cell body. In the cell body, we have the nucleus, we have the cytoplasm, and we have the nasal granules. You can see that the green one which I had made is your nasal granules or nasal bodies, whatever you say. Fine. See, these green one is your nasal granules. This is present in your dendrites as well as in your cytoplasm of the nucleus or the cell body. But if you see this this green part is which is called your nasal bodies, it is devoid in the exoplasm, means axon. It is not present in the axon. But if we talk about the cytoplasm, that is present in the axon. Let me draw it, the orange color one. This is present in the axon, right? This is the cytoplasm of the axon. This is present in the axon, but it is the nasal granules which are not present in the axon. They are present in the your cell body as well as your dendrites. Fine. You can see in the dendrites also these nasal granules are present. So nasal granules, and another one is your cytoplasm, nasal granules, your Golgi body. your mitochondria. These all are present in your cell body, right? Let's talk about the function of it. You know the nucleus, which is present centrally in the cell body of the neuron. So it has the nucleoli in it, one or two, that is centrally present. And if we talk about the cytoplasm is also called the neuroplasm because it is a neuron, right? So cytoplasm is also called the neuroplasm and it is present in the cell body. In the cytoplasm, we have the nasal granules also. Nasal granules are nothing but these are the bodies, and one thing I have to mention it that it contains the ribosomes. Nasal bodies contains the ribosomes. If they contains the ribosomes, so what are they responsible for? Yes, very good. They are responsible for the protein synthesis, right? Now I have one question that axon do not have the nasal granules. So how would it makes the protein? It also require the protein for the nutrition. So how would the axon got the protein without having the nasal granules? Yes, please answer me in the comment section. Okay, I'll tell you now that nasal granules are present in the cell body as well as in the dendrites, but they are not present in the axon. But see, if you see the structure here, this is the axon hillock, right? What happens is the ribosomes or the nasal granules in which the ribosomes are present, they are responsible for the protein synthesis. These protein synthesis occur in the cell body itself as well as in the dendrites. But when the protein synthesis occur, they will shift the protein or they will transport the proteins from the cell body to the axon. Fine. Although cell proteins are not synthesized in the axon, but they contain the proteins. How? They contain the protein through the transportation of the proteins from the cell body and dendrites to the axon. Fine. So this is the way that axon got the protein. Otherwise, it is devoid of the nasal granules. It is very important point. Just remember it. And if we talk about the Golgi body, it is like other cells. It is responsible for the packing and all. And if we talk about the mitochondria, it is again the ATP of the house. Means uh, it generates the ATP, right? So Golgi body is responsible for packaging and transporting, right? And mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So it forms the ATPs. So if we see that we have covered the cell body in which we talked about the structures which are present in the nucleus or in the cytoplasm, means mitochondria are also present here, Golgi bodies are also present here. So, the Golgi bodies and mitochondria are also present in the axon, right? Only axon is devoid of your nasal bodies, in which the protein synthesis occur. But once the protein forms, it will transport from the cell body to the axon. Fine. Now we will talk about the axon, right? You can see the structure of the that we can see in the axon. See, this is the axon, which is a long rod-like structure, and if you see these coverings I have made, what are they? They are called a myelin sheath, right? I have mentioned here, right? This is called a myelin sheath. So, what is the function of the myelin sheath? It is very important to know the function of the myelin sheath because it plays very important role. Let's talk about it. So, myelin sheath has the two function. First is, if I talk, is first is your saltatory conduction. I'll tell you what is saltatory conduction, don't worry. And second one is your function of the myelin sheath. It provides a insulation, right? So if we see that this is the axon, for example, and we have the myelin sheath here on the axon, So if we see the nerve impulses, nerve is the impulsion, sorry, the transmission of the impulse, right? Sorry, the transmission of the impulse which is continuing through the nerve, right? See, for example, here means your neuron or your cell body, the dendrites which taking the sensation, so it will shift your its sensation to the cell body, and through the cell body it continues to the axon. So the transmission of the impulse, for example, the impulse is here. Let me draw it with another pen so it will be more clear. So for example, your nerve impulse is here, right? So due to the myelin sheath, because it provides insulation, you know insulation is what? Like your nerve, for example, your electricity wire is there, right? It is made up of copper, but it is insulated with the plastic sheet, right? So that if you catch it, you won't get any shock. So that is the function of the myelin sheet. Same is the function of the myelin sheet, means it provides the insulation to the nerve fiber. So for example, your impulse is here, so it has to travel the axon, right? It could not be traveled like this because the myelin sheath is there, and the myelin sheath could not conduct the impulse, so impulse will jump from here to here because here myelin sheath is absent, right? You can see the point, myelin sheath is absent here. So from here it will also, again it don't have any passage because the myelin sheath is there. So it will move from here to here again, right? It will move from here to here again. So if you see the the impulse is jumping from one myelin sheath to another myelin sheath. So it will, this fashion of the transmission of the impulse is called your saltatory conduction, right? What is the benefit of the saltatory conduction? The benefit is that it transmit the impulse faster, right? For let us assume it has to move from here to here, and it do not have the myelin sheath. For example, it will move from here to here, then from here to here, then from here to here, so up to the axon ending. It will take much time, rather it will move from jump from here to here and then from here to here, right? So it is the impulse conduction becomes faster because of the myelin sheath. So myelin sheath, this function is clear, that this impulse transmission, the fashion, it is called your saltatory conduction. So it it transmits the impulse very fast, right? This is the first function of the myelin sheath. And if we talk about the second function, I already told you that it provides the insulation, so it prevents from the shock absorption, means it acts as a shock absorber. It prevents from the shock, so it acts as a shock absorber. Fine. This is a function of the myelin sheath. Now if I talk about the, let us go to the structure of the neuron again. See, now it is clear that your axon has a uh, long rod, and in which the myelin sheath is present. Now, have you wondered that how the myelin sheath came into existence? Let us talk about that. Let me take a new slide. See, if I draw the structure of the neuron here very quickly. Okay, I'll not draw the detailed structure, just to make you understand about the myelin sheath. See, we will discuss about the myelinogenesis. Again, divide the term. What is myelin? You know myelin sheath. And what is genesis? Means the formation. So, we will talk about the formation of myelin sheath. Right? So, formation of myelin sheath is called your myelinogenesis, or the process of formation of the myelin sheath is called your myelinogenesis. So, let's talk about the, for example, talk about the myelinated and non-myelinated fibers. You understand the term myelinated and non-myelinated fibers? Let us clear this down. Myelinated fibers means that the neuron fibers in which the myelin sheath is present. And non-myelinated or unmyelinated fiber means the neurons or the nerve fibers where the myelin sheath is absent, right? So, if I show you this structure, is the myelin sheath is present over here? No. Let's talk about the myelinated fibers. See, for example, earlier from the beginning, all the fibers are unmyelinated, but the if we talk about the neurolema, this is the. Let me clear first the structure of the nerve before we clear the what is myelinogenesis. It will be more clear to you then. See, if I draw one nerve over here. See, this is the structure of the nerve. Means I am showing you how the nerve looks. If you cut the nerve, this is a cross section of the nerve, right? Um, this is the one bundle, right? And if we talk about the bundle of the nerve fiber, means the one bundle. This is the whole nerve. And if we talk about the one bundle of the nerve fiber, it is called your fascicle, right? And if I talk about the covering of the fascicle or the membrane of the fascicle or the nerve bundle fiber, it is called your perineurium. You know, peri means outer side and neurium means nerve. The covering of the fascicle or the nerve bundle fiber is called your perineurium. And if I talk about the whole or the membrane sheath or the covering of the whole nerve bundle means all the fascicles, then what it is called? It is called your epineurium, right? And if I only talk about the one nerve fiber covering that is enclosed in your fascicle, Then the now a membrane that the one each nerve fiber membrane, then it is called your endoneurium, right? So this is the structure of the nerve. Means you have the nerve in which the bundle of the nerve fibers are there. The bundle of the nerve fibers are called your fascicle. And if we talk about the covering of the fascicle or the membrane of the fascicle, it is called your perimembrane, perineurium. And if I talk about the whole sheath or the covering or the membrane of the nerve, then it is called your epineurium. And if I say that each nerve fiber or the each nerve fiber which is enclosed or the covering of the each nerve fiber, then it is called your endoneurium. Is it clear? So this is your cross section of the nerve. Now you know how the nerve looks. Now let's discuss our topic which we were doing earlier. Myelinated and non-myelinated fibers. Now you know that myelinated fibers which have the myelin sheath and non-myelinated fibers which do not have the myelin sheath. We are talking about this neuron, this do not have the myelin sheath, and I am telling you about the myelinogenesis, that how the myelin sheath or myelin sheath appears on the neuron. If I talk about the embryonic stage, right, the myelin sheath is not present there means it started in the intrauterine life only, but it completes or the myelin sheath formation completes at after your 2 years of age, right? And if I talk about the how the myelin sheath forms, it is formed by your Schwann cells. It is very important, just remember it, that myelin sheath is formed by your Schwann cells. Where the Schwann cells are present? So now you know this covering or the membrane is called your neurulima, right? And or the exolema, the covering of the axon. The covering or the membrane of the axon is called your exolema. And if I talk about the myelinogenesis, then I told you that it is formed by your Schwann cells. Where the Schwann cells are present? These are present in the exolema only, in the form of concentric circles, like this. Right? What happens is that these Schwann cells grow and the covering of the Schwann cell is called neurolema. As the covering of the axon is called your exolema, so the cover membrane of the Schwann cell is called your neurolema. So once the Schwann cells started to divide, it will be dividing in the concentric circles, right? So when the concentric circles are formed, big ones, they will fuse together, they will fuse together and they form your myelin sheath, understand? And the age up to which this formation completes is your 2 years of age, means after 2 years of age your myelin sheath is completed, right? Myelin formation is completed. Then before that it still divides, Schwann cell are still continuing divide and are in the process of the formation of myelinogenesis, right? I told you these Schwann cells are in the form of the concentric circles are present in the exolema, and the covering of the Schwann cell is called the neurolema. What happens is once they divide means they grow in the bigger size, so they will fuse together and they form a sheath there. That sheath is called your myelin sheath. And the cytoplasm which is present in the your Schwann cells, these will then it will won't be burst, it will not degenerate, but it will be present in the in between the space between the your myelin sheath and your exolema. I'll show you one structure. Wait a minute. then it will be more clear to you. See, here you can see this is your unmyelinated fiber. This fiber is your unmyelinated fiber because it is not having your myelin sheath, right? If I told you that you know that the covering of the axon is called your exolemma, right? The covering of the axon is called your exolemma, and here are your Schwann cells present in the exolemma. Once they fuse together, they will form the myelin sheath here like this, right? And the cytoplasm which is in the Schwann cell, it won't be degenerate, but it will be present in the this space, the space between your myelin sheath and your exolemma. So this will be your the remaining part of the Schwann cells, and others will degenerate. Fine. And the covering of the your myelin sheath is called your neurolemma only, because these are formed by your Schwann cells only, and the covering or the membrane of the Schwann cell is called your neurolemma. So it will be the continuation of that membrane only. Fine. Now I'll tell you one more thing. You can see here that as I told you in the saltatory conduction, that your where the myelin sheath is not present, your impulse will be jump from one place to the another place, right? What this place is called? This place is called nodes of Renvier. Fine. The place where the myelin sheath is absent in the nerve fiber, the points, that is called your nodes of Renvier. And if I talk about the two nodes, and the distance between the two nodes, it's called your internode. Distance between the two nodes, it's called your internode. Inter means between, and node means node of Ranvier, right? So with this I told you the myelinogenesis also. Is it clear? You can see the nucleus of Schwann cell is here, so it is continuing to divide, and once it will be divide enough, it will fuse together forming the myelin sheath, and the covering of it will be remaining, it will call your neurolemma. Fine. So I ask you one question, that in the CNS, right? The CNS means your brain and spinal cord. The neurolemma is absent, right? It is not present. It is absent. Means your Schwann cells are not there in the central nervous system. The fibers which we were discussing, or the myelinogenesis which we were talking about, is on your peripheral nervous system, right? They also have the nerve cells. So there in the peripheral nervous system, your myelin sheath is formed by your Schwann cells. But I am telling that the neurolemma or your Schwann cells is absent in the central nervous system. So, are the neurons in the central nervous system which are present, they are unmyelinated or myelinated? If they are myelinated, then how the myelinogenesis occurs there? Because the Schwann cells are not there. Then how it is possible that your myelin sheath is formed? It's very simple. If anybody knows, please answer me in the comment section. I'll respond to it. So, in the central nervous system, your another cells are present which are called your oligodendrocytes. Sorry. I'm really sorry. Yes. In the central nervous system, just a minute, I'll take a pen. The cells which are responsible for the myelin sheath, they are called your oligodendrocytes. Okay. Means myelin sheath, the neurons are myelinated in the central nervous system, right? But they are formed by the oligodendrocytes. But in the peripheral nervous system, it is formed by your Schwann cells. Okay. So with this, our structure of the neuron and the function of the neuron is completed. If you have any doubts, please let me know in the comment section, and watch my video, please share it. And if you have any doubt, please post in the comment section. Thank you so much.